What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Talk Dirt to Me, and today we're going to be talking about pots. Yes, pots. They're what your plants grow in, and there's a lot of difference depending on what kind of pot you're using. So we're going to break that down and show you how you can get the best results for your potted plants, especially your seedlings, all right? So first of all, let's talk about how you can get some free pots. Everybody loves free stuff. So you've probably seen one of these before. This is a classic 6-cell planter tray. You can get a plant like small, medium size in this, and they're good, and you can get them for free. The way you're gonna wanna do that is go down to your local garden store. Sometimes the smaller stores are a little more friendly about this, and just ask them, hey, do you guys have any spare pots? They'll probably have lots of these and lots of these. It's a standard like cup size planter, and this is standard 6-cell seedling starting tray. These are good because you can get them for free and you're upcycling, not wasting the plastic and all. However, there are a few caveats to these kinds of pots. The first one being they don't have good drainage. These little slits that are usually at the bottom of these, they tend to close up sometimes, and also there's just not a lot of area, so the roots will curl up and you'll end up with a root-bound plant. This can be especially difficult if you're multi-sowing and you have to break the plants apart, or it can just also be difficult if you're trying to get your plants a little bit bigger before they go out in your garden. Reasons for doing this might be that you have pests in your garden, that eat the plants when they are pretty small. And so you have to wait until the plants get a little bit bigger before you can put them out in your garden. And that's when this could get a little difficult because they're starting to get root bound. There's not really good drainage here, so there's moisture pocketing up in the corners, and that's going to lead to root rot. And that's going to be problematic, slow down the growth of your plants, and you won't have really healthy seedlings. So the solution is you got to up pot it into a bigger pot. Now you're adding a whole new step of labor into this just to get from this size to this size, where it will be big enough for you to put out in your garden potentially. A lot of plants will actually be big enough to put out in your garden when they're this small, but remember, with less dirt, they're going to have a less deep root system and they're going to need to be watered more frequently. So if you're having problems with pests and you're having problems with your plants getting enough water right when you plant them, getting a bigger size pot for those plants before you transplant them out is a good thing to do. And you're gonna wanna transplant out of a pot once the roots are pretty much starting to come out of the bottom. You could go a little earlier than this. You could let it have roots at the bottom for a while, but once you're seeing a lot of roots at the bottom, it's probably time to do a transplant pretty soon because you don't want these plants getting root bound. If a plant gets root bound, several things can happen. You can just stunt the growth of it. It could lead to those root rot diseases like I discussed, or if it's an annual plant, it could cause it to bolt or flower. Stress, like dehydration, like getting root bound, can cause these plants to flower, like arugula or like dill would be a great example of this. Sunflowers, if they get root bound, they're gonna flower right away, even if they're really small. So this is gonna stunt the growth of a lot of different kinds of plants. Which segue leads us to air pruning pots. Air pruning pots, there's lots of good information about these, but I'm gonna tell you right now why they're so good. First of all, oxygen. Oxygen is what helps things stay aerobic. All the time when you're hearing about soil, you're gonna hear about aerobic. Aerobic microbes are more efficient. If you remember chemistry and ATP, things are actually 18 times more efficient when they can utilize oxygen because there's a lot of energy stored in there. So if you can keep your roots aerated, you're gonna keep them aerobic, and that's going to inhibit any of those pathogenic fungi that we discussed previously, like the root rot inducing things, right? So air pruning pots will tend to have these slits in the side and a little bit more of an opening here. The benefit to this is also achieved for multi-sowing because the roots aren't going to be wrapping around, they're going to be just coming down and out. It will be easier to pull apart your little seedlings if you sow multiple seeds in each cell. So this is a good example of a small multi-sow pot, but you're encountering the same problem here that you encounter with this one, and that's you're gonna need to up pot these to a larger size before they go out in your garden if you're encountering these problems and you need to have hardier plants. And or they're just gonna be not having a lot of space to grow. So you're putting yourself in a situation with this size pot where you're gonna need to do extra labor unless you could put them out. That's what I was gonna say. And or if you could put them out at this size, good on you. That means you don't have a lot of little pests, slugs, and mice and other stuff that will eat them when they're this size, so go ahead and go for it. But if you need them to get a little bigger, I found what I think might be the perfect size for people like me. So I garden here in an urban environment, and I start most of my seedlings here on concrete, right? But then I bring my plants up to the hill down the street from here, and I plant them in the dirt. There are a lot of critters out there, and it's pretty problematic for me to try to directly sow things or to put small plants out there. I'm gonna achieve a lot of losses. So I've been trying to find, how do I get the in-between size of this and this with less labor, and ideally with air pruning? One more quick side note is that trays like this is an American tray company, tend to be made, first of all, in America, second of all, of higher quality BPA-free plastic. This stuff might be free, but it does break down very quickly, and you're only gonna get a few uses out of it before it starts to crack and become useless for you. These are built to last, so you can get these and they'll be solid outputters for you. This is professional quality stuff right here. So if you're getting these, you're probably not gonna have to keep buying them over and over again. It's like a one-time purchase. So I recently found these from Bootstrap Farmer, another American company. More air pruning pots, but look at the size of these bad boys right here. So not only are you achieving a deeper, bigger cell than these, you're not quite as big as this, but you do have the air pruning potential right there because you have the slits and the big open holes. So because of that, one of the problems with these is that the moisture will accumulate in the bottoms, and so you can't water them as frequently as you might like to. With pots like these, you can actually water them a little bit more frequently, and they're not going to end up with water trapped in the cell. So when a plant gets big in a pot, it gets more thirsty. It requires more frequent watering. So because it's hard to get them that in-between size in these before they either are really thirsty or they're not quite down to the bottom. So with pots like these, your roots are gonna more quickly get down to the bottom, and it's gonna probably be way easier to keep these plants alive. So I will update you guys this year with the results from my new upscaled size pot, and with the air pruning, I think it's gonna be really beneficial for plants like zucchini, for plants like squashes and curcubits, that you want them to get a little bigger before you put them out in your garden, and they really take off. So it's hard to start them in cells like these. Whereas for smaller plants, I still think that cells like these might be pretty applicable. Cells like this small, I don't prefer to use unless the plant that I'm going to transplant is quite small itself. Like you could sow lettuce or something in here that's going to be pretty small, let it get to a good size where it's filling out these, and then transplant them. Yeah, you could do something like that, but I don't prefer this small. I think I wasted some money buying this size. This size. It's like the Goldilocks, you know? One more thing. When you're looking to buy pots, a smart move might be to get some trays. See how these pots just fit perfectly in this tray? This tray is made for pots like this. I believe that this is a standard size tray, and even this pot will fit in there pretty nicely where you could stack them in a similar way. So if you get something that's modular like this, you're going to be able to maximize your space, and the added benefit, you won't leak dirt all over where you're watering your seedlings. And as an added benefit, once your plants get to be a little sizable and the roots are reaching down, you can just water the tray right here, and the water will actually go up the soil, and you'll end up capillary action, that's what that's called, and they'll actually bottom feed. So you don't even have to get your leaves wet on your seedlings. You can just use that tray to water it from below, use that tray to help you with picking up multiple plants at a time. And again, if you buy good trays from these companies that I mentioned, like Bootstrap Farmer or American Tray Company, they're going to be solid and built to last. Industrial grade, BPA free, bendable, flexible, good, sunproof plastic. Not that crap that you should only ever get for free at your local garden store. I hope this helped you with, I did get a little bit into the weeds here, but I hope I was able to keep this relative, 9 minutes, oh geez. I was hopefully able to keep this relatively concise, and hopefully this gave you some more information about why air pruning pots might be good for your plants and how to be more efficient when you're sowing your seedlings. All right, thanks for watching.